for having me. Dodori today, dear participants, have no interest in testing you whatsoever. So the point today is to share with you some important elements. And as Ray mentioned already, the idea is to maybe to broaden up the perspective and let you understand that this tool actually today it's applied by a very broad set of industries and companies in the world. So it's true, my specialty is hotel revenue management, but hopefully today we will have this broad perspective. About myself, in few words, I'm another engineer teaching revenue management. I think it's a kind of tradition in the academia to have people coming from operational research or engineering and teaching that thing. But and I've been teaching revenue management since 2001. So after all these years, I discovered that it's not only about crunching numbers. Okay, it's much more complex, and it's a very, very interesting area. Since I don't have the opportunity to make the acquaintance with each of you, I would have a suggestion. So let's go quickly for a polling. So let me know something about you, okay? So please take a couple of minutes just to answer this polling. If possible, one single good answer, okay? Thank you. There is no time limit, but as soon as I see that all the attendees answered the poll, I shall end it. Okay, so far it seems that I have the answers from all of you, and I share with you also the answers, the results. I'm very happy to see that nobody ticked the last box, so you're not by accident here. That's very good news. Majority of you say that it's not your direct responsibility, but you work on a regular basis with someone else who is in charge for revenue management. And also the second important percentage part of you are working in revenue management. So that's challenging for me. As you can see, it's pretty heterogeneous, the population. Anyway, let's try to see a little bit what I can say about it. And I would like to start by a story. Majority of people working in revenue management know this story. It's a story of a barbershop, a one-chair barbershop, okay, somewhere in the United States in a small village. And the lady, Carol, she was a very gifted lady, but she realized she had a problem with her barbershop. She had too many clients on Saturday, especially Saturday morning, a lot of retirees, lots of women, kids. Quite often she couldn't satisfy all of them. Sometimes people were waiting for 2 hours for a haircut, so it was really a difficult situation on Saturdays. And by contrary, on Tuesdays, Carol realized that it was quite often empty. There was no clients. So she was a little bit upset because it was obvious that this way she couldn't cover well her cost and make a decent profit. So since she was alone, it was a one-chair barbershop, she thought maybe one idea would be to buy a second chair for Saturdays and to hire someone to work with her and support her on Saturdays, and why not maybe to close down on Tuesdays, the barbershop. Carol was lucky because one of the guys living in that village was called Robert Cross, and maybe the name tells you something. Robert Cross is one of the first authors writing a very famous book on revenue management, and Robert tried to come with an advice and told Carol, listen, Carol, one mistake, big mistake you could do is to close down your barbershop on Tuesdays. Remember that if it's closed down, you still have things to pay, you have some cost, and no matter if your barbershop is open or closed, you will have this cost. This is what we call the fixed cost, right? And on the other hand, having a help on Saturdays only maybe is not the right solution. So this solution, and this is in one simple story, the essence of revenue management was to say, hey, let's see a little bit, why do we have so many people on Saturday? And first thing, they realized that on Saturday, majority of retirees were coming not necessarily for the service of the barbershop. They were gathering together there in order to have a chat on the football game on Friday evening. So for them, it was the place to be and to talk about their experience, their impressions on the football game, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, they realized that part of the people didn't want necessarily to come on Saturday, so they could easily come in another day. So the conclusion, and that was kind of revenue management in a nutshell, was to say, hey, you know what, let's practice lower prices on Tuesday and to attract people who are not necessarily interested in coming only on Saturday morning, and maybe to raise the prices on Saturday and to skim a little bit the market, and maybe to put a pressure on them and to reorganize the demand in such a way that the barbershop, still one chair barbershop, will have a pretty constant demand. And that's, in one word, the story of revenue management. I shall not tell you about the real story and how revenue management has been created in the 80s, but I really like this story of no tech. It's zero technology revenue management. It's about good common sense. And to a certain extent, it's also one of the topics I would like to cover today. This is the most well-known definition for revenue management, pretty well-known. Actually, it's only the upper side of the definition which is well-known. So I speak about all these four areas here. So revenue management is about selling the right product or the right service at the right time for the right price and to the right customer. So that was the original definition. But today, and it makes now more than 15 years that we put also the emphasis on the distribution channels. So revenue management today, if you try to wrap up this definition, in my perspective, revenue management is having a 5-dimension decision-making process. So we have to master simultaneously 5 dimensions and to find the best possible solutions. So it looks simple, it's very short, it's very brief, but it's very complicated. And that's the challenge of revenue management. Or put it maybe in another way, would be to say something like this. So in the end, revenue management is this area where you have the crossing of several elements. First, it's about your service capacity. The second is definitely the demand, the market. And finally, is the price. So the crossing area, it's called revenue management. So this is maybe another easy to grasp definition for revenue management. Okay. Now about the myths. And I really like to challenge people with this myth definition. Why? Because if you have a look here, you see that they have been first time listed in 1993, okay? And what's amazing is the fact that today still, these myths are still in place. So we are still struggling against these myths and how to get rid of this persistent wrong mindset perspective. So let's have a look on this myths. Okay, in his article, Warren Lieberman mentions 10 myths. My intention today is not to skim through all the myths. I would just tackle 3 of them, which in my opinion represent the wrong perspective and the mindset on revenue management. Something more, my intention is to challenge you and to maybe, if I succeed, to make you think in this current situation, which kind of myth is taking over my perspective on revenue management. And lucky me if I could inspire you in switching, debunking that myth and understanding that maybe you were wrong. So step by step. The first myth: revenue management is a computer system, which is absolutely wrong. It's something we figure out why, because at the very beginning, that was the change, the radical shift. All of a sudden, we had a software called revenue management system. And from that moment, every single person in the hospitality industry, first airline industry, car rental, and today you have it in lots of sectors, they think revenue management is having the machine, it's having the software, which is absolutely wrong. You can't imagine how many times in my career as revenue management expert, I could see that what was missing with the companies is a revenue management mindset, or if you prefer another term, it's a revenue management culture. So people don't know what it is. They don't breathe revenue management. They don't think through the revenue management mindset. They don't look and read the information with the revenue management eyes, and that's a problem. It's true, we speak about a system, and it's true today, the pressure is even bigger. Why? Because we have all these new developments, artificial intelligence, we have deep learning capacities, we have the possibility to analyze huge databases and so on. But in the end, revenue management is not only about the machine. It's about the people. It's about the way we use this tool. I would like to share with you my perception, and maybe to put somewhere in your minds the fact that revenue management, the machine, I mean the revenue management system, the software, is a decision-making tool. And like every other tool, it's useless if you don't have also the craftsman ready to use it the right way and to get the best, okay? So please don't make the confusion. We, for example, to think we cannot practice revenue management because we don't have the software, or the other way around. We have the software, so now what we do is revenue management. So please be very careful how you perceive the situation and the components, okay? I shall come later with more the definition for revenue management. Maybe it will be clearer for you. By the way, like for the other presentations in this series of resilience journey, what I suggest you is to write your questions through the chat, and by the end of my short presentation, I would be very, very happy to take these questions and to have the discussion with you, but based on your interest, not only my idea about what to speak and what to present here. The second myth speaks about another error. So quite often, the beginners, the newcomers, think that revenue management is only for high demand periods. So the good application is only when we have more demand than our accommodation capacity in the case of a hotel, or our service capacity in the case of any other company, which is wrong. In the meantime, I can understand why. There is a source of bias here, is the fact that it's true, we have a specific tool in revenue management that can be applied only when demand exceeds supply, and that tool is overbooking, okay? So that's a specific thing, and also we practice discount control. So we manage in a different way the prices, but please don't think that revenue management is overbooking. It's just one tool in the toolkit, okay? So revenue management is a broader set of decisions, and the idea is, and that's the challenge today, how to practice revenue management when there's very limited demand, when the demand is insufficient. That's the challenge. Then you see if you have a good revenue manager, okay? Then you see how that manager can decide where to put the rates, so which rates to keep open or closed, when to say yes, when to say no, how to allocate the rooms available and the rates through different distribution channels and so on. So this is the challenge today. If you go back to the definition, talking about the right service at the right time for the right price to the right customer through the right distribution channel. So that's the challenge when the demand is not enough. Are you good enough to make the best decisions given the fact that you're not empowered to say yes or no? And even then, it's a very important question to whom to say yes and to whom to say no. Which demand to accept, for what price, and which demand to reject, knowing that this way you optimize revenue. So this is a challenge. So please don't reduce revenue management to high season, to high demand. Revenue management is also for shoulder season. It's also for low season. Actually, when we speak about insufficient demand, when actually the supply exceeds demand, then comes in another very important tool in revenue management, which is forecasting. So we have to forecast. We have to anticipate the fact that we are below the regular demand and make the appropriate decisions. To know, to anticipate that we have to collaborate and work together with marketing and sales, so to find other customer segments and to get the best from our capacity in excess. So please understand how we should tackle any moment in the year. Revenue management cannot be only the tool for the high season. The last myth, which is another quite common place when people are talking about revenue management, is to consider that revenue management is about discounting, okay? So how to practice lower prices. That's a very dangerous thing because there is another, let's say, word of wisdom in hospitality saying that a hotel, if I stay with the hospitality industry, a hotel should discount to fill the rooms in low demand and to raise the rates during the peak times. And this is another incomplete and very unbalanced perspective, okay? Let me give you one example. The fact that you have a shoulder season, you have a moment where your hotel is not fully booked and you sell something like 70%, 75% of your capacity. Why do you think that at that moment your rates should be lower than when you are fully booked and when you sell out 100% capacity? First and above all, and this is one important, let's say, approach in revenue management, is to always understand which customer segments are booking at that moment or the other one. So here comes another issue, which is customer price sensitivity and willingness to pay. So we don't discount just in order to be attractive for the market. We discount because we understand that in our customer mix, in the target market, we need to have also some price sensitive segments, but only some price sensitive segments. And the challenge for the revenue manager is to sell only to these segments for discounted rates, but for all the others to be able to ask them to pay what they think the service is worth. So you see how complicated it is to find a balance and to understand that pure discounting is dangerous. Actually, it's a downward spiral for all the competitors. Of course, when we speak about discounting, and in general, when we speak about pricing and typical hotel pricing, we have to understand the pressure, the huge pressure coming from the competitors. So we are not alone, and it's true that if in the market you have this panic reaction, desperate reaction saying we have no choice but to discount, then it will be a very tough time for your hotel to manage. But even in that situation, my advice and my perspective, and this is what I like to share with the hotelier, is to tell them, listen, I can understand the fact that it is a trend in the market to discount, but at least be smart and try to, let's say, to avoid till the very last moment to practice the discount like the others. Never be the first one to discount. Try to keep your prices up as long as possible, and to be the last one to practice a discount, but always to be the first one to raise your prices whenever the opportunity shows up. So these are, in my opinion, 3 important myths. And if you try to make the link with the current situation, lots of people are asking, revenue management experts, what do you think? What can we do? We are desperate. We panic. There's no demand. We have to close down the hotel. So what kind of solution we could have from revenue management? First, the very first thing is go back to the example of Carol's one-chair barbershop. Is to avoid as long as possible to close down your hotel. That's the rule number 1. Try to find a way to keep it open. Try to find a way to shift your target market and to become another kind of accommodation unit. That will be one thing. The second one, it's about the prices. So it's a very huge pressure on hotels to discount, so to become attractive. I have just one single question. What is, in your opinion, the price which is reflecting accurately the service quality you deliver? Because if you accept to discount and to practice a price which is not reflecting the value of your service, is something wrong. You communicate a very bad message to the market. You tell them, listen, guys, you can have exactly the same quality for 50% discount. This is a very, very dangerous and strongly biased message you communicate to the market. Actually, you have to tell them, listen, guys, what do you think my service is worth? Is it top quality? Is it adapted and personalized as much as possible? Okay, then I think it's fair for me to share it to a good price and for you to have it for the right price. So let's try to find, a kind of real win-win relationship. 2 more things I would like to share with you. First, it's an up-to-date definition. So I took it from one of the, let's say, new kids in town. So it's one of the new revenue management system providers, Duetto. Okay. And what I like in this definition is exactly the fact that they remind you a very important thing. Revenue management, it's arts and science. So if I go back to one of the myths, it's not only about science, it's not only about the software, it's also about the artist, and the artist, it's you, is the manager. So without you, without your intuition, without your creativity, the revenue management cannot work, okay? The second thing is about matching supply and demand. So understand that it doesn't matter if it's high season or shoulder season or low season, your job is to think all the time based on the solid tools of revenue management and to find the best combination. What is the right price? What is the right service? Who's the right customer? Who should I accept? Who should I reject? And so on. And another quotation I like very much, and I would like to share with you, is this one. So please, please, please understand that revenue management is not something radically new. Revenue management practices lots of decisions we used to practice in the past. So it's not about the decisions that have changed thanks to revenue management. It's how we make the decisions. So please understand, and that's why I insist on the fact that revenue management is a decision-making tool. is just another tool, okay? But the way we think business, the mindset of the good hotelier is the same one. It doesn't change. Okay, we have the same perspective about service quality, but also about when to sell and when to slow down the sales, when to open lower rates or when to close rates and to keep the rates high, when to open or to close distribution through one channel or the other one. And these are elements we have always been in charge of. So it's not something new. It's not about the objectives or the goals of the revenue manager. They are the same. It's just the fact that we have new opportunities and the technology is just a tool. It's just a lever we use in order to reinforce the quality in our decision making. Okay, so this was briefly my presentation. These were the elements. I don't want to spend too much time on theories and so on and so forth. I try to be direct and to maybe help you leave today with at least one idea in your minds, okay? So what should I do and what's the mistake I could make if I don't adopt this perspective, okay? So I would like to thank you for your attention. I'm very happy to see that you're still here, still with me, and I would be very happy to address your questions or concerns.
Okay, the floor is yours. We have already two questions. One is coming from Stefania. How do you adapt revenue manager on a downturn like the one that we are experiencing right now? Okay, and I think that you just explained this, but maybe you want to clarify a little bit more. And how, in which way we can use revenue management now for today's situation?
Okay, the very first thing you have to understand is that the new normal, as everyone is calling it now, will be different. And the question, and it's not only for the revenue manager, but let's stay now with the revenue manager, is to understand what's the new normal. So when the demand will be back, what will be the profile of the demand? And from that perspective, and this is the challenge for the revenue manager, this is the job now, is to try to get all the bits of information and to figure out what will be the market when the demand will come back. So elements are clear for everyone. It will be almost 100% domestic market. So that's one thing. And then to ask yourself the question, how good we are today in managing the domestic market. What's the ratio of domestic market in our current target market? The second thing is to review your segmentation. So to say, okay, this is the past, it's not the same elements of, let's say, profile. So goal, willingness to pay, length of stay, booking behavior, how many days prior they book, do they accept anymore to book without possibility of cancellation? Unfortunately, lots of customers, they learn the hard way how complicated it is to get your money back when you cannot travel, but in the end you book without possibility of cancellation. So the hotel will tell you, listen, that was the deal. So in any case, I have no intention to reimburse you. And other elements. So you know, it's about changing, for example, rethinking all the cancellation policy, if I stick to the same idea. But in my opinion, the very, very important thing and the number one responsibility for revenue manager in this downturn is to figure out the future market, but also to decide which are the sources of information I shall check on regular basis, so to understand accurately the trends in the market. One example is to watch the airlines, okay? They will speak about changes. You will see when airlines are, let's say, finding back the demand, when airlines will find back the prices they used to practice before, and so on and so forth, especially if your destination is a destination having an airport or something like that, okay? But you see, so these are just examples. I don't have the time, and I don't think it's the point now to go on every single detail, but it's about anticipating. So don't think we are desperate. There's no way out. We have no idea what will happen. You start gathering and putting together bits of information. So be prepared and try to figure out your new strategy. When everything will be back in place, you will be ready to act. And that's an important thing.
There are another two questions and a comment now. The other question, it's about pricing that you mentioned it. What will be the best pricing policies now? Then to just add two new things about this, because everybody, we don't have 100% people from hospitality that if you say a little bit more what it's about the pricing and how revenue management help us for the pricing. For instance, even retail people, they like to know. That will be fantastic. That just two hints about this. You mentioned already that don't cut the price now. Okay, but people, they are very worried and they think that if they'll go with the same price, nobody will come. Okay, just please.
Yeah, if you take the time to read a little bit information about what the clients, the consumers are buying today, you'll be amazed to see that lots of people are saving money. Okay, one important issue is unemployment. So definitely you have good part of the population in different countries impacted by the unemployment. But for all the others, it's crazy, but these guys don't spend the same amount of money like in the past. So in terms of pricing, my position is very clear. I wouldn't sacrifice. So I would never sell for a loss. Okay. So in the case of a retailer, of course, my inventory of products represents a cost. So I have all the interest to sell that thing. Otherwise, my money stays with my inventory of unsold products. Now, it's to find and to make some calculations and to figure out what is the price which is acceptable in terms of I should control the costs, okay, the inventory cost. But on the other hand, please don't do the mistake to communicate the bad message. The bad message is to tell the people, you know what, you can have this thing for half price. It's a very bad message and it's a very dangerous one. Why? Because people, if they do it once or twice or three times, automatically they will develop a very critical Pavlovian effect. So this is what they will ask for in the future. So you have to understand that as long as your discount does not increase the demand in a significant way so that in the end you make the same revenue, the same profit, then you do a mistake. So honestly, what's the point to sell 50% of your capacity to a discounted rate or to sell only, let's say, 30% of your capacity for a better price, when in the end you make the same revenue and the same profit? So please don't think the symbol of success is occupancy. The symbol of success is selling on regular basis significant volumes of products. No, it's about your profitability, and that's the thing now. And I'm confident every single owner will accept this kind of argument, saying, okay, fine, we are not fully booked, but we generate a, let's say, decent revenue and profit given the situation. So please don't sacrifice your revenue and never ever sacrifice your profit by practicing this.
Related to this, just please tell them what you usually explain when an hotel or somebody propose that this is the best value for your money. How do you translate this, the best value for your money?
That is the other way around. So yeah, quite often hotels are asking, but how can we know what's the customer willingness to pay? Okay, so what kind of information we can have? And it's true. You have two kind of approach. One is expensive. It's through market research and specific tools, conjoint analysis. Okay, I don't go into the details, but you have, and this is what Ray was mentioning, you have free feedback. And that free feedback for the moment, it's a little bit silent. It's about TripAdvisor. So the idea is that whenever on TripAdvisor, your customers are writing a feedback like, in this hotel, you have the best value for your money, or this is the most, so you have value for your bucks, you name it. So any other form of communication like this, feedback like this, for you, it's obvious they are paying less than what they would be ready to pay. So in other words, you are leaving money on the table. So this is a very interesting and indirect way to read the information. Unfortunately, the hotelier, when they read that thing, they are so happy. Sometimes they answer, say, thank you for your positive feedback. But wait a second, actually, the feedback says, hey, you know what? You are leaving money on the table. To put it in other words, I would never like the idea to know that majority of my customers are saying about my hotel, what a good deal. When they say what a good deal, for me, it's obvious I don't have the right prices, period. And
okay. Now, there is another question from Larissa. The classical question, what software the revenue management would you recommend, considering the best value for this offer?
That's a tricky one, because first, I don't know all of them, okay? So I cannot say I have a pertinent perspective on that thing. Nevertheless, what I would suggest you is to understand that you have today dedicated software revenue management system for any kind of hotel size, because that's another myth. If you don't have minimum 100 rooms, revenue management is not for you. No, today you have revenue management systems for 30-room hotel, for 50-room hotel, and so on, okay? So that's the important thing. The second one is about, in my opinion, the question concerning the error margin in their forecasting approach, okay? So this is an important element. So if you see and you test the machine and you're happy with the improvement in demand forecast, all of a sudden you will see how easy will be for you to make decisions. All the other decisions are based on the good anticipation of the demand, of the forecast of the demand, okay? Then, of course, it's about how difficult or easy it's to interface this revenue management system to other tools and so on and so forth. But again, I go to one of my ideas. Before you buy whatsoever revenue management system, you have to be sure that within your organization, the majority of decision makers, I mean the managers, and also the supervisors, so the people making decisions, they should have a good understanding of what is revenue management. Why do we buy this machine? What's the objective? What's the goal? What is the new language? Because otherwise you have the machine, but the people using the machine will not be prepared, and that's very dangerous.
Okay, we have a question now from Claudia Stein, much more larger than how do you consider the demand in travel industry will change due to the actual situation?
As I
do
said,
you have some forecast or something? Because everybody have ideas.
No, I don't have forecast. By contrary, I don't know who can make it. Even for the United States, where you have, a very nice concentration of experts and, consulting companies, I mean, STR, CBRE, and so on. Even if you look on their forecast, you will see that they don't agree. And it's absolutely normal. As someone said, what we know in this period is that we know nothing. So it's an unusual situation. What we can do is to learn and to see a little bit the new variables that are influencing the demand, okay? So to understand what's the policy of the government concerning, the lockdown, to understand what's the risk to have a second wave or a third one, and to imagine the impact it might have on your business. But otherwise, I'm sorry, and don't take me wrong, nobody can come today with a credible forecast. Actually, they are questioning, is it a U shape, an L shape, a W shape, the crisis and so on. Nobody knows about that thing, and that's the challenge. But if it can help you, please remember that it's the same situation for everyone. Nobody has today a crystal ball, so nobody knows what will happen.
Valerio have a very good comment regarding what you mentioned about the price and don't cut the price. He's saying that due to all this restriction and all this health, the cost will increase because hotels, they have to take in consideration a lot of new rules that they have to integrate. Then what will happen in this case with the price? Because for him, the price will be higher, not, or maybe Valerio, if you want to, if I translate in a wrong way, just tell me and say something else.
There's another possibility there. I didn't mention it, and thank you for the question. So when it's about cost, it's true that we call it revenue management, but in the end, and it was also in between the lines, normally we speak about profit management. So in the end, it's not the revenue that counts, it's about the profit. And it's true that today, the challenge is twofold. On the one hand, it's how to generate revenue, how to bring demand into the hotel. And also the second challenge is how to keep costs under control without jeopardizing the quality of the services, okay? Remember that the simplest thing to do is to fire people. But if you fire people, then definitely it will impact the quality of the service you provide. So you have to understand who you can fire and who you have to keep, so to be sure that the quality is there and that the customers will get what they are looking for. So you keep your promise. The second thing here is about the pricing and to say, listen, I communicate value. So remember, it's always a link between price and value. The price has to reflect the value, but remember the value as perceived by the customer. So now is the moment you can say, listen, I can offer you a package. So it's not only room in the case of a hotel, it's room plus this service and the other one and the other one. And this way to try to keep the prices high. So what you had before for this price, 169, it was just the room. Today for 139, you have the room plus. So you communicate value, okay? But it's important for the customer to understand that it's not a huge gap between the former price and the new price, because otherwise it will be extremely difficult for you to pull them up again when everything will be over. So it's a huge marketing effort we don't realize, but these are other kind of costs, sunk costs about marketing. You cannot imagine how much it will cost you to pull them up from this price level to the real one in the future. So it's very complicated.
You mentioned at the beginning that you are an engineer, as many other people in revenue management, and Adela Stefan, she's asking you, what are the top skills for a good revenue manager responsible?
You know, today I realized that thanks to my engineering studies, it's easier for me to explain to my students because we do calculations, okay? So we work on Excel. We take a worksheet and I show them, you know, in a very simplified way, some algorithms. So explain them a little bit what's inside the black box of a revenue management system. So this is my only advantage as an engineer, is because I am comfortable with the numbers and I can find different ways to explain the same thing. Today, for revenue manager, is not about crunching numbers, the first thing. The very important one is to be a leader. So today, the revenue manager is the person who has to communicate and to become the leader of the group. The revenue manager has a different perspective, comes with a new tool, a new approach, modern, okay, and profit-oriented, which is great for any kind of business. But if you don't know how to communicate, if you don't know how to find the right arguments, if you don't have a good understanding about the specific constraints and objectives for the marketing function, for the sales function, for the food and beverage function, for the, let's say, the service space, so I mean the ballroom, the conference room, events, and so on, then you're not a good manager. So you cannot be a good manager, okay? Actually, quite often in the case of small hotels, the person taking over the revenue management responsibility is the general manager, because that person has really the broadest possible perspective on all the activities and also the connections between the activities and on the interdependencies. Yeah.
We have another very interesting question coming from Ionuț Platon. He's asking, when you are using revenue management and you have to deal with OTAs and you have your own channel, how can you balance all these things?
I am the first one saying, please don't get rid of OTAs. It's true that now with the current downturn, we are not very good friends because the OTAs were the first one to change the rules and to accept cancellations for bookings which were without cancellation, non-refundable, okay? So they tried to keep a good relationship with the travelers saying, listen guys, we are with you, we help you, okay? So who was paying? The hotel, definitely. So following this last experience, we are not in good relationship today. But for me, and that's an important thing, OTAs and in general, third-party intermediaries are necessary. There are customer segments you cannot reach without the support and the help from intermediaries. Forget about it, especially if you are an independent hotel or a small chain, who knows about you, okay? One might say we put the emphasis on the loyal customers. Do you have enough loyal customers so to say we don't need third-party intermediaries? So the question again, it's about how much it costs me and how much they bring in, okay? And of course, what's the bargaining power? And you know, for the bargaining power, it's almost zero. So we cannot bargain with Booking or with Expedia and you name it. But the thing is that I have to realize the trade-off. This is how much it costs me, but this is the revenue and especially the profit they generate, I couldn't generate in another way. And from that perspective, you'll understand what's the part you should give to third party and what's the part you shouldn't give to third party. So it's on you to find the right balance, but that's your approach.
The second question for Ionuț, it's very provocative that we can speak 1 month about this. Do you agree that the price reflects quality?
No, the price reflects quality perceived by the customer. So don't fool yourself. It's not what you think in terms of quality. It's only what the customer thinks about the quality, okay? So it's very, very sensitive issue because if your targeting is wrong, that guest will never perceive the quality you had in mind when you conceived the service, okay? And the second, the customer, even if it's the right target market, that customer has an experience you don't know about it. So what kind of other hotels these guests consider as being the benchmark, and how do they define value, not in regards only to your value proposition, but any other experience they had with other hotels. And from that perspective, it becomes extremely complicated. Reason why, if I were you, I would strongly encourage you in the future to spend as much time as possible by walking around into your hotel and to talk to your guests. Then and only then you will have direct feedback and you'll have from direct source the information you desperately need to understand what is good, what is valuable, and what it is not. And on the top, but remember the way your customers are providing feedback on TripAdvisor and other social media platforms is limited, okay? But that's another source of information too, because then they speak free. It's anonymous, you don't know who they are. So these are two important sources of information to understand the value. I think, is it the value they perceive? So is my right price or not? My price right or not, okay? Yeah.
Okay, we have another many questions that we didn't let people to ask live, that I'll go a little bit faster. Then Olenka from Serbia, she's asking the same thing about the skills for revenue management. You already answered. But the next one is coming from somebody in restaurant, because usually you forget the F&B and restaurant business in revenue management. Also the association in Romania, they are not very active, pity, because some people from this association think that people with restaurants, they are not speaking English and they do not understand very sophisticated. This is completely absurd. They are very performant. And Marius Mocian, he's asking, a restaurant is also leaving money on the table. If it gets a review about the good value for money, it's offered. then what about this?
Okay, for the restaurants, I have a very nice story, short one. Maybe you heard about some restaurants who practice a different pricing approach called pay what you want. So they tried an experience where, for example, for 1 week, they decided on the menu there will be no price, nothing. Okay, so you come, you have a seat, you order, and when you leave, you pay what you think it was worth. Okay. And the surprise, and I have seen several articles and research on this topic, is to realize that for about 25%, roughly 1/4 of the customers, they paid more than what the restaurant owner thought could be the right price. That was good news. You have also about 25%, 25% who paid less, okay? And somewhere in between, you have roughly 50% who are paying more or less what the owner was thinking about. And this is a nice experience because it speaks about, okay, I can charge them more, but I have to understand who and when would be ready to pay more. It's not only about the food, it's also about the service, it's also about the atmosphere, it's also about the lightning, lots of things. Okay, so it's very complicated, but it's a very nice and cheap experience. So to gauge your prices and to say, hey, maybe we're wrong, maybe we could charge them more. Okay, one more thing, you never practice pay what you want for 1 year, because if they understand that they really pay what you want, after the second visit or the third one, they will pay you 0. Okay, because that's human nature, but that's another story.
Okay, there is another question related also to pricing, of course, coming from A. Costescu. And it's a huge pressure on hotels now because they are in a bad situation and the customer, they are asking for discount. And the question is how that will affect the medium and long-term pricing strategy as the demand on the market is estimated to grow continuously. What should be your suggestion to how to balance this?
That's a story of pricing. I would use, even if, please be careful, is not comparable. So we have statistics about the last downturn, so 2009 and so on. Okay, and we could see that, for example, the crisis for the hospitality industry took something like 14 months. Okay, so it started in October 2008, and for 14 months you had a permanent decrease in ADR for the hotels. Okay, and then we hit the bottom, and then after 14 months we had the recovery. What is interesting is to compare 14 months of decrease of discounts and 14 months of recovery, and to see that during the same duration, the 14 months of recovery, the hotels could recover only 50%, roughly, it was 49% of the former ADR. So it's very easy to go down and to discount, but again, it's a very long and let's say a costly process to recover, okay, for different reasons. But especially is because customers say, hey, wait a second, but you practice that price and you know what, you haven't disappeared. So in the end, even with that low discount, you are making a margin, you are making profit. They don't know how much, but they know that you are making a profit. And then they say, why now when you increase the price, you want to make more profit? I don't agree with you. So it's a very delicate issue there. When you practice discount, you show them the fact that, so you give them an information about your margin, your profit. And this is something you should never, ever make transparent to your customers, okay? That's my position.
Now we have another scenario very close to, because as I mentioned to you, everybody are very keen to know about the pricing strategies. That's the key issue. And the revenue management have to solve this problem. The scenario proposed by Adina Marculescu is we cannot make forecasts realistic. One, costs go up because of all these measures COVID. Clients want to drop price because they want to reduce cost. for the moment, we cannot measure how much clients are willing to pay after reopening. What do you place in the rate? What do you suggest for the rate in percentage? How much plus, how much minus in comparison with the normal situation? That if you have 100% the normal situation, what will be plus, what will be minus now?
Again, I mentioned it, but maybe I was not clear in my explanation. So by now, you know a little bit what are your fixed costs, okay? So you know how many employees you have, and you know how much you spend with your suppliers and so on. So you should have a pretty clear idea about your current cost. Once again, you can accept to practice discounts as long as the profit you will make with the current costs. Remember, you have also a variable cost in regards to how many customers you attract. But in accommodation, if I stay with hospitality, the variable costs are pretty low. So it's not the most important thing. But what you have to understand is that, okay, as long as we make the same profit we could make with higher prices, with our normal prices, we can accept to discount. But again, if I were you, I would rather try to go back to my database and to remember my repeating guests, my loyal guests. Now's the moment they should show you if they are loyal or not, because now you say, hey, I know your preferences, and you know what? I'm ready to offer you that thing for a nice price. So to create packages. In the package, you hide the actual room rate, and that's the most important thing. So you keep under control the discount because you add value. Okay, so I should not give you a huge discount by giving you room plus. Okay, but in the meantime, you have to communicate. I'm not ready to go too low. So in your minds, when you think about my hotel, you should think here somewhere between these two rates. That's the normal rate. So don't accept a huge gap in pricing because it will be very, very costly for you to make it up later. Okay, so that's my perspective. Now, it's another issue with COVID-19 is that we have to review the other services. So I read more and more about the new forms of breakfast. Forget about the classical breakfast, the buffet and all the rest. Forget it. Because of this social distancing, you will have huge problems there. It's also about the capacity in your restaurant. So try to figure out other forms of services. Speak about security. That's a source of value today. So if you sell and communicate security, then definitely they will choose you and your price, even if it's higher than the others, because this is what scares them the most today. So this is the argument today. So I'm sorry to put it straightforward, but you are leveraging their scare, okay? And that's a good argument. So it's about understanding what's the source of value for them today. So I have to communicate value and to say, you know what, for that value, that's the price.
I have another, this is one more rhetorical question from Alina Rapard, asking that if the customer, doesn't matter which kind of customer, ask for a discount, it's better to give this discount, to offer this discount, or to include much more services in the same price.
Listen, you have to understand quickly, and this is also part of the training of your employees and so on. So your employee, answering the telephone should understand quickly who do I have on the telephone, is by telephone, okay? So I have to understand, is this potential guest looking for discount at any price? Because in that case, okay, it's fine. So if you really look for the discount, I shall give you a room which is the lowest value room I have. And I mean the view, I mean the floor, I mean the noise, okay, any other elements of comfort, and to say, listen, if you're really looking for the cheapest room, I have one. But let me explain you why this one costs you more. So to always communicate and to be careful to communicate the value, okay? And to say, this is why you pay more, because you have this and this and this. If you want to get rid of some elements, fine, then I can give you something cheaper. So these are elements of pricing in revenue management. It's a little bit more complicated. It's what we call fencing. Actually, I invite all these people to attend the series of 6 webinars, because one of the topics will be pricing and fencings, and then I shall have more opportunities and more time to go a little bit into some examples and to maybe make it easier to grasp and to understand, okay, how come I can practice different prices? Okay.
This is exactly the low-cost airline and exactly what easy hotels they are doing. And if you want to pay very low price, fine, but you get the minimum of service.
Yeah.
And you have the TV in the room, but if you want to watch it, you have to buy the remote to watch it, and so far. Exactly this. And this will be much more in details because there are other questions about pricing in your webinar of the new series of the webinar.
Correct.
Now I have a last question here, and after, if you allow me to ask the floor to us directly, it's our colleague, Professor Najar. He's asking about distribution channel which promotes special offer with discounting, as Define Deal, Wish, and many others, where you can find even 5-star with a fantastic price.
Yeah, it's true, but here it's dangerous. So my opinion is that, yes, we have a special category of third-party intermediaries. I mean the opaque channels like Hotwire or a Priceline. So these are okay. Why? Because your brand is protected. This is what we call the shield effect, okay? And it's good because till the very last moment, the potential guests paying a high discount price will never know which hotel is practicing that price, okay? But again, a rule says you never practice this kind of approach unless it is about rooms you know that whatever you do, you can never sell. So only this capacity will be sold through the opaque channels for hard discount. But again, you are protected. It's not transparent. Nobody will know that it's your hotel practicing. I think even if it's a 5-star, I have no problem. But for all the regular channels, so where is full transparency, I mean internet, OTAs, and you name it, there I have to be coherent with my positioning. So I cannot accept communicating a hard discount on a transparent public channel. Okay, that's my view.
If you allow me, Horațiu, based on this, just to share with our friend from Romania and Serbia in the restaurant business, as Mihai Moisescu and others, and in Switzerland, the Swiss government decided to open the restaurant at the 11th of May 11, and probably other countries follow, but it's something very tricky. It will be just based on reservation. You have to give the name and the place where you'll be on table. And probably also in Romania, as a government for Cotroceni, you take the same decision, or I don't know, in Serbia, it's opening. The only thing that I want to say regarding the discount, it's we have a very good model in Switzerland, a very good application and a site where the restaurant, if they show that from some slot of time their reservation decrease, they sell it nevertheless with a better price, with a discount, in order to have the restaurant full as an airplane to have full. That was a question for the floor now till here on writing. Now I open for the last 2 questions or a discussion who want to add something and to give a suggestion or to ask a final question. Okay, another few minutes. The floor is yours. Gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen, who want to make an amendment, to ask something, or to make a comment. Nobody? Then I have housekeeping questions. And Joel, what did you want to ask to the people?
I have also a final poll, so I would like to get a feedback from them, but this time through my poll, my short quiz. Okay.
Of course.
Go ahead for the housekeeping.
Anyway, just keep in mind that this was a kind of teaser, that it was just an introduction, and an introduction to an introduction in revenue management and pricing. If you want a little bit more, then you subscribe to the webinars. Will be also with Horațiu, and if not, you'll come back with other possibility to help you to deal with this special issue, and even with retailing with much more specific things. Then housekeeping, Joel is asking about 2 persons to give the name, Leah and Horia George. We do not know if you are here, because if you entered the enter certificate, please write in an email. And now I ask for the last time, did somebody want to ask another question live? Please do it. Don't forget your microphone are mute. You have to unmute your microphone. Nobody?
No, no more questions. Then if you agree, dear attendees, I would be very happy if you could answer my series of questions. So like in the beginning, thank you very much for sharing with me your feedback so I could figure out a little bit how good I was or not. Everything is possible today.
Okay, then your feedback, please, and don't forget, stay in contact. We'll come with the new interesting webinars, and Horacio, he'll be back. And I hope that he'll come in Romania and in Serbia physically, and we'll have also face-to-face because it's much more easy.
That's my preferred one. That's my preferred one, definitely. Yeah.
Just maybe you tell us a few words till the people will fill up this about what will be in the 6 webinars that you are preparing.
I transmitted already the list, so I skimmed through the main elements. So passing through segmentation, passing through pricing, passing through some distribution issues, also the total revenue management, how to combine rooms with F&B, with conference rooms, with ballrooms, events, and so on. And I have also a one session dedicated to the crisis. So then I should come with some more elements. But again, don't dream about the fact that in that session, all of a sudden, I shall bring my famous crystal ball and provide you the answer to all your questions. It's impossible. It's just to give you some directions and maybe be of help concerning, an action plan, or what should we do, what kind of priorities we could define, and so on and so forth. Okay.
Thank you very much. On the top of this, just to remember them that that will be a completely interactive session, not like today, because you are preparing gaming and other methods where the people will work with you together in order to learn directly something in this webinar. Valerio is asking a last question, where will be this webinar? Also on our site, you'll get all the information on the wintertrees.Switzerland. It's already there under the hospitality journey, then hospitality resilience journey.
It's a series of 6 webinars, 1 hour each, and they will start on May 20th. Okay, so the 20th of May we start, but it's not very regular. So there are weeks when I have 2, there are weeks when I have 1. It's also in regards to my schedule here in Lausanne. But this is the series of 6 webinars on revenue management. Okay.
And as I said, we hope that in autumn, Horacio will be physically in Romania and in Serbia. And Valerio, if you organize also in Israel, he'll come also in Israel. He already was there, and he can do revenue management also live for you. Okay. Yeah. Did somebody want to ask a final question, or we close here this very interesting webinar? We already are out of time. Then last question, a last comment, somebody from the floor.
Just thank you very much, Horațiu. Was fantastic. I lost you in Jerusalem last year. But,
okay.
I lost you. My schedule wasn't with your matching with your presence here, but fantastic. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Ray, as well.
Thank you for your feedback. Thank you, Valerio. Thank you.
Then once again, it was Horațiu Tudori. He's original from Romania, an engineer from Barbershop like myself, specialized from 20 years in revenue management. And by the way, revenue management, we are saying in the last year, because at the beginning was yield management, okay?
Exactly.
That's it. People, they understand even better. And he's considering as one of the best expert working with the best company made in States as IDO and many others. Then he'll be back with the webinar. Thank you, folks. Thank you very, very much for your participation today. You passed the record. We had 48 people, and despite all the limitations, thank you, everybody, and see you tomorrow with Miki from Belgrade. Miki, she has a long experience with Four Seasons in Boston, and she is an expert also in marketing in hotels, and she'll give you her ideas about this fantastic part of hospitality. Thank you, everybody, and see you soon.